This conference will now be recorded.
So, we will I will cover whatever is discussed in the last class, like in a briefly. Okay, Splunk is basically a log analysis tool or log management tool. Okay, so in an enterprise, right, you will have multiple applications, right? Let me take this. Previously, in traditional systems, right, the architecture was something like this. In one component, right, in one server, right, they will be having, they will install the application server, they will install the database server, and we will be having like two, three Tomcats or what. It will be running on the same server, and each one will be generating the log. Like application will be generating some app log, whereas a database will be generating like db.log log. Okay, and if you have other components, right, yeah, those will be generating some logs. When we have everything in one place, right, we can easily debug an issue if we encounter any. But in the current system, right, what's happening is we have multiple technologies, right? So we have multiple technologies like cloud, Kubernetes, Docker. In these things, what is happening? The application is split into multiple like small pieces of code, and they are building one jar and they are deploying it. So if you take an Amazon.com, if you consider that as a complete system which provides the solution for e-commerce. If in the traditional architecture we used to have everything in one server, which makes the things easy to debug. Okay, but in the current trend, right, some data will be present. Like, okay, there will be some components like cart.
It's a decoupled manner.
Yeah, so there will be some components like functionalities like add to cart, and there will be other component like make payments. And uh, so these are the functionalities which will be present in the Amazon. If the scalability, based on the scalability of each component, right, they will be spinning the number of instances for these microservices. It may have 1 2 10, something like that. But for us, right, each microservice will be generating one log. Okay, now if the Amazon.com has some 50 microservices, what is going to happen? Then we have to, if we encounter an issue, we have to we have to log into that 50 servers, or if we have to fetch 50 logs, which will be a hectic job for a developer or a tester or an IT engineer if something goes wrong. So Splunk provides a solution where it will ship all the logs of this complete architecture to one location, one storage location, which is not basically a MySQL or something. It stores everything in bucket. When we have all this information shipped to one centralized server, when all these logs DB or DB or application or like functionality logs or web server, everything is shipped to one Splunk server. Okay, in this Splunk server, we can easily fetch and analyze the data, like how many transactions are being processed in last 1 hour or per minute. on the fly. As soon as the application gets this, the Splunk gets this data, then it can be analyzed, and we can keep the so we can prepare some dashboards and see what is happening in the live. In current production systems, mostly what they will do, right? They will prepare a predefined dashboards based on their needs. Something like they will prepare for the same Amazon.com. They will prepare, right? Payment failures. Payments rejected and orders, number of orders, and okay, just ignore the typo. So on the fly, right, these logs will have all this data. So if you have a dashboard which has all these details, then they can predict the load, number one. And number two, right, the business, right, business will be more interested in the payments made, or how many orders are placed, something like that, right? And payments rejected, it is used by the executive to reinitiate the payment, or they will see whether is this user doing a actual payment, or he's a fraud guy who will be keeping on trying with multiple things, multiple cards. And what is the payment processed? So if you have a live dashboard which provides these details, right, it will be good, no? And if something happen also, we can take immediate action. Let us assume like payments are getting failed here. Whenever payments, right, these payments are getting processed, right, at some point of time suddenly it started failing. In the earlier days, right, the customer used to report, or the support guy used to report to a developer to fix it. But when we have this dashboard in place, right, the correction time will be very less. Like if it takes in hours, no, it will be finished in like 15 or 20 minutes, because they know what is happening on the exactly on the system. Got it? Basically it is a log monitoring tool. Means it will collect all the data logs from the different applications. Basically it can monitor anything. It can monitor your app server, DB servers, and your IoT devices, your mm, your network elements like routers, switches. It will get all this data. Next, we'll move on to, and there are about like 5,000 customers. Like most of the people are using the Splunk these days, and it is very effective. Yeah, yeah, this is one thing. And we have different types of Splunk certifications, like Splunk Core Certified Power User and Splunk Core Certified Advanced Power User, and Splunk Enterprise Certified Admin, Splunk Enterprise Certified Architect. So basically, it has two job opportunities. One is like Splunk Admin and Splunk Developer. So if you want to manage anything at the Splunk servers, then you have to go with uh, Splunk Certified Admin and Architect. Whether if you want to create some dashboards or something, then you will be going with this power user. It provides two job opportunities. And for a tester, why he should know, right? The Splunk is like whenever he triggers some test, let us assume like after 15 minutes, the throughput started falling. If you want to nail down the exact transaction, all the details will be present in the logs, right? So from these logs, we can analyze the data, whether if it is like a test data issue, let us assume, or like you are in a 1 hour, right? The test data will be in a 1 hour, the test data that will be reiterated for 4 times. In the first two iterations, there was no issue. Okay, and third and fourth iteration, if there is an issue or the test data going invalid, something like that, then we can figure out. In AppD, right, it will give a what is the transaction level and where it is taking, but here it will give an end-to-end. Got it? Till now clear? So now we will be discussing on two things. Today we will be discussing on like component of the Splunk and architecture, and we will be discussing on the installation of the Splunk. Okay, I will just give some example because the Splunk has can be installed in multiple ways. Okay, it has multiple components. Okay, we'll see all those now. Let us assume it is my source system, means your application system, or environment. In this environment, in your performance testing environment, you have something like app server, DB server, DB server, okay, and web server. Now I have Splunk over here. This is my Splunk. So now I need to send all my logs to Splunk server, correct? So there will be two softwares. One is the Splunk as such, and second is some agent should send the all the logs to the Splunk. Those are called as forwarders. Forwarders are responsible for sending the logs to the Splunk server. And there are two types. One is universal. Second is heavy forwarder. So if you want to get some data from a source system or your application logs or DB servers, we have to install either of one, like whether it will be like universal or heavy forwarder. And I will show that one. So universal forwarder is a lightweight agent which runs on the applications. So whenever we are running some performance tests, right, we will make sure like we won't install any third-party agents. That is our basic fundamental thing, right? We won't install any heavy agents because it in turn may affect your performance of the application itself. So we will be installing a thin client. I meant to select the thin client or an agent in the source system, and it will be it is a lightweight, and it is just like 64 MB for Windows, and it's up. There are multiple versions, like its compatibilities for Windows, and we have Linux. In Linux also, like we have RPM based, and we will be having a Debian based system, and we'll be have a simple jar. Sorry, like tar we will get over here, and it is compatible with Solaris, Mac, FreeBSD, and AX systems. So what I meant to say, right? You see, like whatever the software size, right? It is just 18 MB or like 20 MB. If you see the Splunk Enterprise Edition, it will be like a 300 MB file. It is like 257, or if you take Linux, right? It is around like 300 or 400 MB. I hope you understand. So in Splunk, there will be two things that needs to be installed. This is Enterprise Edition is the server side configuration, or the server side software, whereas you will have one more thing called forwarder, which is an agent, which is a lightweight, and it is just like 25 MB or something, such that it won't impact the performance of the complete server as such. Okay, so whatever the data that is coming from this source systems will be stored in the Splunk in an indexer. That component is called an indexer. Okay, indexer stores the data in bucket. I'll put something like this. Each, let us assume, if I'm getting for first project, I'll be having one index. So we will be something. We will be having something like this. Index. Index is equal to. So each project will be having some unique name to get no, or like that is like index name. So based on the index name, the data will be stored in the container. These are called as the containers. So for Amazon.com, I'll be having a separate container, means it's a storage. All it is basically a directory. So if, as there are like, the Splunk can be deployed in multiple projects and multiple machines, right? So each project information can be put under one index, where it will fetch all the logs pertaining to that project and store it in one location. That is called as a container. Like that, we will have n number of containers in the indexer. Got it? And so let us assume like I'm having uh, some Amazon. It is having multiple logs that can be generated. Amazon.com will be having multiple logs that will be generated from the source, and one system can't support everything, right? One indexer can't serve the nodes, all the nodes or all the traffic that is coming from the, like here, if I have some 1,000 machines or 1,000 sources, thousands or some 5,000, one indexer can't serve the all the traffic. So we will be having some cluster of indexers. Okay, let us assume there is one scenario. There are some 100 applications, 100 projects, and each project is having some now we'll take some 1,000 projects. Each project is having some file logs that needs to be generated. Then if everything comes to indexer, right, it will be like heavily occupied, and the maintenance or to manage this indexer, it will be a tough job. If something goes down, or if something goes down, or if something hangs or something, right, then it will be like hard to manage the complete cluster. So this complete cluster will be managed by some other component. One second. So there will be one more server, cluster manager or something, which will manage all these indexer in real time, right? We'll be having like 20 or 30 or even more, 50 indexers. And regarding the volume, if each application generates some traffic like around like 100 MB per minute. So 100 MB per minute, then 1,000 projects or 5,000 sources will generate like 50,000 MB per minute, right? So it is a huge, the volume of the data that is being collected here is very huge. In a standalone system, right, this indexer can be used as, there will be one more component basically, I will tell you. Now it will store, this indexer will store the data from the source systems, and I have to retrieve the data, right? So for that, it has to collect it from the DB. There is some other component called as search head. What search head will do? Let us assume like I have put one query. Retrieve. I am running some endurance test. It is lasts for 24 hours. So I will give a query saying like I want all the failed transactions within that 24 hours period. Then the search head will give the get the data from this indexer, which is stored in the container or bucket, or we can call it as a bucket also. And it will get this information to you. Got it? That is the search head is used for getting the data from the indexer. And like this, if you are having some 1,000 projects, then 1,000 people will be accessing the same search head, right? Then there is a chance like it may go down. So in order to manage, right, in normally we will have multiple search heads, which will be getting the data from multiple indexers. It is not basically one-to-one system putting. And as I mentioned here, there is one more component called deployment server. So let us assume like I'm an admin. Okay, now have to do the configurations in this universal forwarder for 1,000 projects, means like 5,000 sources of which are generating the logs. So I have to log into each and every this 5,000 machines, like it may be Linux machine or whatever Windows machine. I have to do the configuration over there. So which is a painful job. So this deployment server will take care of the configuration of from the sources. means whether it can be a universal forwarder or an heavy forwarder, whatever the configuration that is required, like what is the data. Basically, in a universal forwarder, what will have, what data should be shipped. And location. Location of source. Location of source means like your log path and your host name and your destination name. So these three things should be recorded in your source such that it will ship your data to the Splunk server. Got it? Confusing? You can,
So
if you have
what is
any
the
query.
difference between universal and heavy forward? Sorry, I missed
Yeah,
because of internet
yeah,
issue.
yeah. So I haven't told about anything about this heavy forwarded. First, I will just complete this
Okay.
architecture because I have to clear this board. Okay, I have to.
Yeah.
Till now, you understood?
Just one quick question. These indexers, the multiple in the
Yes,
cluster, right? Do they
yes.
use any database behind to store in tables?
No, no. Directories, containers. They store everything in one directory. You know, C drive and D drive will have one directories, right? Each and every project information will be stored in directory itself. There is no SQL DB or Oracle DB. It's just a raw
It's a
directory.
flat file. You mean to say
Yeah,
text format.
exactly. It's text file. Now, yeah, which will be compressed basically.
Perfect. Thank you.
And now there is one more component called as license manager. License manager. Okay, I'm running one project. Okay, I own a company. Okay, like something abc.com. Out of which I have 20 projects, and each project will be generating the logs of different volumes. One project will be generating per day some 10 GB, other project will be generating for 20 GB. If it is an e-commerce or something, right, it will be generating data in TBs. Okay, some projects will be generating like GB per day. So how the Splunk charges you, right? It will be charging based on the amount of the data that is being stored in the indexer in these buckets. It won't charge you, it won't charge the company based on the number of universal forwarders or number of the indexers or its number of search hits. So it will charge based on how much amount of volume, whatever the volume, the size of the data. If you collect something like 2 TB per day annually, or 50 GB per day annually. Okay, and you can ask one question. I have purchased some 50 GB, but due to unpredicted, as we are moving in agile, as we have introduced one new feature which added lot of data. Like let us assume like now we have big basket. Now it is shipping only like essential items. Let us assume if they launch something like mobiles or e-commerce, right? As it is a local provider, you will get the shipment within 4 or 5 hours. So then people will be preferring the big basket only to get the their mobiles or like iPads or smart whatever. So suddenly there will be a surge in the data. Previously it was consuming 50 GB. Now what it is doing like 100 GB. per day. So, sorry, 50 GB per day it is using, okay, and now it added some 30 GB extra within after 3 months. So what we can do, right? What Splunk will offer, right? It will provide you a license as a top up. How you recharge a prepaid mobile on a base license, they will provide you a top up for applying license for some extra GBs like 30 GB or 50 GB or whatever. That is how the Splunk model works. They will be charging based on the data that gets accumulated in the indexer. Clear how the license management works?
You said what is the name of the license? Is it top off something?
No, I'm telling you, like you have purchased
On
1 year
top of that,
license.
okay, okay.
No, top of it, you are consuming some extra 10 GB per day. So you can buy a top up like for 1 month per day extra 10 GB I want. You will purchase only that license. Like previously you used to have the recharges, right? Monthly package you will be having some 199. If that like with some 150 rupees talk time, what we will do once if that 150 rupees talk time is finished, but even if you have validity, you will purchase some 40 rupees or 50 rupees top up, right? Where you will be getting some 50 rupees recharge amount and you will use it. If it finishes, we will re-top up it again. Got it?
Yeah, but does the data get truncated when unusual of data is being used, unexpectedly, or they give the buffer
No,
1 or 2 days
The
like?
thing is, no, what it will do, right? The data will be reaching the Splunk, but search head won't give you the data. It will
Oh,
store it, but it won't retrieve anything. Once the like license gets expired, you won't get like for an endurance test after 12 hours, your Splunk license got expired. For the next 12 hours, you won't search any data.
okay.
Okay, now you are clear, right? Based
Yes,
on
sir.
the component. So basically, yeah. So you know what is universal forwarder, and I will discuss about this heavy forwarder. Okay, indexer, this is the cluster master which will manage this multiple indexers, or search head which will fetch the data from the indexer, and deployment server also. Like there will be like uh, multiple configurations. Like for Apache, you will be having one configuration file or log file. For VAS server, you will be have another configuration file. Basically, it will help to reduce the burden on the admin. And license manager also, Now we will discuss about the difference between the search forwarder or like a universal forwarder and heavy forwarder. So this is my source system. Let us assume it is like ICICI Bank or a ICICI Bank POS, like a swiping machine like that. We have multiple. Okay. Now there is one system over here who monitors the failed transactions. Like you will be having some fraud detection on teams, right? Where if any fraud happens, they will come and refund you the amount if there is nothing wrong from your side, and they will provide you like where the data is stolen or where you have swiped the card. They will give you all the details, right? The customer care executives. If you like if any fraud transaction happens, they will provide those details, right? So let us assume it is some server, or not exactly. Give me a second, I will correct something like this. It is not basically a POS terminal. Bank's application server itself, which records all the events. credit card division. In that, it is having some app server or web server, all the logs it will be present. On top of it, right, I have put universal forwarder. Okay. Now, this fraud detection team, this is the or recovery team, whatever, fraud detection team.
So these both are on the same network, right? These are the same network.
Yeah, it can be on different network also, but the thing is, whatever that is configured in the source should reach the destination. In a complex structure, you can have your for your performance testing or any solution, you may have some machines in cloud like Azure, Google Cloud, or AWS. And when we have this Splunk universal forwarder installed in those machines, they will be shipping the logs to this indexer. But if it is in an AWS, like you will be having CloudWatch, okay, which monitor the clouds. If you don't want to use the CloudWatch, you can install this universal forwarder and ship that indexer, and we can spin the indexer in the AWS itself, because the underlying infrastructure or the storage should be managed by the company. If you see Performance Center, they will provide you load runner like Performance Center. The company will provide only the license for the number of load generator and virtual users. But the underlying infrastructure like VMs or the desktops where these load generators are installed, company has to pay the cost. In the same way, in the Splunk also, Splunk team will give you license to store the data, but the storage and the machines cost should be managed by the company itself or the project team.
So where is the search head here in these two
No, no, I'm
diagrams?
just no. This is separate. I'm discussing here only difference between the universal forwarder and the heavy forwarder. Now I'm discussing only on the difference between the universal forwarder and the heavy forwarder. Okay, this is separate. So this fraud detection team won't need the complete information of the what is happening in that application, correct or not. It can trim, means it needs only the details which are under the fraud detection area, or the payments that are failed, or the uh, failed, or where the fraud happened, right? You don't need all the logs, correct or not. So there should be one system which will give you a, which should parse. Let us assume like here we have this heavy forwarder. The job of the heavy forwarder is this. What is the purpose of this universal forwarder? If you configure any path, it will ship the logs to the indexer. But in this case, it will ship all the logs to the heavy forwarder. Then heavy forwarder will check, or we will say something like this one. Now currently we are talking about a failed, okay, failed transactions, or uh, if a hacker comes and wants to hack it, right? If he will be using multiple cards from the same IP or some same location, right? So in those cases, this heavy forward, what it will do, right? It will try to get the details of the failed transactions, and they will be having some algorithms for this, right? So what it will do, right? It will filter out. Let us assume in this case, right? This team needs only the failed transactions, so that they will record something like failure attempts. They're maintaining some dashboard like failure attempts. Okay. failure attempts and cards making more than some 50K or like whatever, or like making frequent transactions. They're having some frequent transactions. They're having two dashboards. So this heavy forward, what it will do, right? It will parse. What if I parse it only on the source itself? On the application, in the application servers itself, I can also parse. But if I parse on the source, I am doing some operations on the source systems, which this job may affect or put an overhead on the complete source system itself, right? If I am getting some 1000 GB, like some 100 GB or like 50 GB per hour in your some 1 hour test. It's a complex system, and if I want to parse 50 GB means approximately I have to parse 1 GB or like 750 MB per minute, which in turn will put the overhead on the complete source system itself, on the application server or a Tomcat server, whatever, on a DB server. So what we will do, right? This heavy forwarder will do the parsing for us. If you want only like failed and error transactions, right? You can filter it out and it will send those things to this indexer. Got it? Let us assume, as I told, there is one more use case where I told one thing, right? The Splunk license is like uh, is applicable based on the how Splunk license works, right? It is based on the amount of the data that is being stored, okay, into this indexer. Let us assume like for each transaction, I am storing 1 MB of data. In a worst case, 1 MB. If you take any POS terminal now, what it will do? It won't have any, it's just a dummy client system where it will record when you swipe on a POS terminal, right? It will record the location and the source IP and the card numbers and all those, and also the path it took to come to the request to reach the server. All this information it will be stored. If you take an ATM also, you will see like you will think like the ATM will be like a computer, but all the routing and all those will be done intelligently such that nothing will be done via an application. Routers are involved mostly while doing this ATMs. When you do an ATM transaction, right, that the request will be going across multiple routers. That's how they are configured. It won't go via internet. During that time, right, all the information will be logged. And for me, right, I don't want to win this 1 MB. I need only 3 logs. One is like a past response, response, request, and failed, or something. Okay, I want only 2 things, because if I store everything, right, 1 MB per transaction, if I store, I can execute more. If my this Splunk license is some 1000 GB or like 10,000 MB, means like 10 GB, I can store only some 10,000 transactions. But what search for, sorry, heavy forward will do, right? It will parse out of this 1 MB. I need only some 3 transactions. Its worth is like around like 20 KB. It will filter the 20 KB and it will send only the data and discard everything. Got it? Basically, heavy forwarder will be used for parsing the data, whatever you want, you are getting from the source. Now you understood the difference between the universal forwarder and the heavy forwarder? Any doubts?
Yeah, yeah.
Basically to reduce cost and do the parsing. Now you only tell me, I will tell you, like if for a small projects or if during POCs, right? The conclusion is if you have one universal forwarder, plus one indexer, for POC, this architecture is fine. This indexer will have the search header functionality or the UI. Got it? For a complex systems, right, you will have many universal forwarders plus many okay. For a real-time project, you will be having something deployment mode, something like this. Got it? Or you can have in this also, you can have multiple forwarders and you can have some one or two indexers, or like we will have 10 indexers. It is this count, many means one or above. Okay, you can have multiple models. So till now, like we have discussed about like multiple components, right? Like universal forwarder, heavy forwarder, indexer, cluster master, search head, deployment server, Linux manager. For universal forward, there is one explicit package that is provided, which I have already shown. For all the other things, right, we will having the same, we will be downloading the same package. This is the enterprise package, and we will do the configuration to change based on it use. Let us assume like this is the enterprise Linux edition, sorry, enterprise Splunk software. This software I can make it as a, I can configure it as a license manager, the same software based on some, if I do some configuration, that will be converted as a license manager. It will be converted to a deployment server. It can be converted to a search head, and it can be converted to the cluster master. There won't be any explicit softwares for all these things. Only for universal forwarder, you will be having a separate package, and the normal enterprise package can be converted to any of these component based on the configuration we do. It will automatically convert. The indexer can be converted to a cluster master, or the indexer can be converted to a deployment server, something like that. Got it? There won't be any explicit softwares that will be provided for this. That's why Splunk allows you to download this this enterprise Linux, as well as this, sorry, universal forwarder, as well as, okay, this is like universal forwarder and enterprise forwarder. They won't provide you explicit package for indexer or heavy forwarder or something. Don't get confused. Like if people say I want to download or heavy forwarder, means you don't expect separate package for that one. There is only one package, all in one package for the server side. Any questions?
Fine.
Else, like tomorrow we will discuss about the installation. It's almost now we will go for these questions. Okay, it's almost it will take some 10-15 minutes. You can post your questions. Tomorrow we'll be discussing about the installations, in the Linux, and there will be like multiple package ways of installing. If you go here, right, even in Linux, you will be having like RPM based and tar based. We'll discuss about these two things, and I will show you. I will install one universal forwarder in one of the Linux machine, and I will ship some sample logs because I don't have an application as such which generates the logs. I have some script which generate logs. So I will show you like how we'll see the UI as well as the installation tomorrow.
So do you have any idea what is the cost, the pattern, I mean, for 1 TB or 2 TB? How does it work per year, or any idea from the vendor?
But it based on how much we consume. So
Assume, I
Splunk,
mean, my company is consuming like 1 TB per a day, I assume.
there is on Confluence, there is one page which
Can
it is like a
you?
per GB some okay.
Calculate?
Per GB, yeah. It is not cheap. Basically, it is like costly only. Mhm. It will be like some per GB and per TB. There is some Confluence. Tomorrow I will get it. So there is one page. Basically, I don't have it handy.
That's fine. That's fine. Can you also
I can.
forward us the PPT which you are showing, that the
Yeah, yeah,
description?
sure. And Splunk offers you like 15 days trial version on cloud, where you tomorrow will discuss on it, like where you can register and you can directly spin the instant, not spin directly, like AppD you can log in and you can do your operations. That will be valid for only 15 days. Whereas if you install your own on in your desktop, right, it will be valid for 60 days. So basically, the support team will reach you. They are not showing here, like they're saying like a no like data limits, but there was some Confluence where, or there is some page where you will have all the details about the pricing. Okay, I will get that for you tomorrow.
And one more thing, are you going to explain us the integration between the Splunk or any APM, like App Dynamics or Dynatrace? How we
So
integrate?
actually that won't I will
I mean, you
try
don't
that.
have to demo because you cannot set up the environment, I understand, but
Yeah,
at least the guidelines.
yeah, I can. Yeah, I can tell you one thing, right? How to, like, let us assume like you have identified one transaction is taking. Basically, if you have some too many servers, right? Like one transaction is going via some 30 or 40 servers. If you want to nail down which component is taking time, in if you take FD, I am not sure whether in your projects, if you have some 5 or 6 applications, I'm not sure whether all these applications will be having FD.
Yeah,
Correct.
correct.
So if for one project, if it is a complex project, based on my experience, each application will be doing what to say, each application will be using some specific monitoring tool. Correct. That is the challenge
Yes,
for us, right? So you can't correlate the results. If you want to correlate the results as a whole, then we have to rely on the logs.
correct. Agree.
So during that time, this Splunk takes a major plays a major role. I will try, but not sure. But one thing, right? What I know is we have a dedicated APM tool which give you the metrics for CPU memory or GC, whatever. If you put the same thing on this one also, it is a duplicate effort, and it in turn will affect the minorly. It will affect this application. No,
Yes, yes.
we know any duplication. But is that is the best practice. For prod, you won't have any APM tools, or you will have APM tools which will monitor only some things, right? During that time, right, in prod, they will set alerts like if my CPU goes or if some transaction fails more than some thousand times within 5 minutes, it will send an directly alert to the production people.
Right.
The usage of Splunk is different set as well. It is not like for memory or CPU, but there are some apps where you can download and you can get it. But I don't think duplication effort is required when we have an APM tool.
Yeah. So what you said is correct. I mean, see, there could be some downstream and upstream applications where the business transaction is flowing all across. So all of them may not be injected with the agents. You're right. So in that case, we can use Splunk with I don't know what level of SQL query we have to write to pull.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
will be easy. I will teach all those things. First, I want to get to know like what is the architecture. Then we will see installing the applications. If I, that's why I told this architecture in prior to the installation. If
Perfect.
I directly install, right, you won't know what is the like if someone says deployment server, you will think it as a separate software as such. But this is just a package we have to mold based on our needs. So next will be clear, like in going forward, right? I will tell you like how to get the charts and all those. Basically, we'll split based on the component. If it is from a web server or leave about that one. If there are some five downstream systems, which are owned by three projects or three companies as such, then there will be a challenge to get the data. If they have Splunk, if that project right has set their Splunk as a centralized location, and it will pull all the data to that centralized server, right? Anyone can use it. All the three companies can use the same data. Whereas in AppD, right, explicitly they have to provide a credential to the downstream system. Correct?
Yes, you're right.
That's how. Yeah. But one good thing, right? If you have these dashboards, whenever you start the testing, whenever you see this wide behavior, right, you will see a spike or something. No, normally in you will be bothered about a CPU spike or something in your APM tool. Correct? That's
Yeah.
could due to some abnormal behavior like response time or throughput or for something. But if you have a dashboard in place to monitor these things, right? If some throughput or if some transactions are taking more time, right? Then you can see the refer the APM tool, what is happening. First, we will see the what is the impact rather than the spike or whatever spike or TPS drop. Got it? And you
Yeah.
can nail that particular transaction. If you have, there will be, as you mentioned, no, you will be having some five components. Each log will be having some unique ID. CTS will be generating one unique ID, and TCS will be generating one unique ID for that complete end-to-end flow. But how we should correlate all the things? If I give some tracing ID in header, and if I send a no, then I should see only that particular transaction logs. Whoever the
How,
company downstream
how
system.
how do you do that inside some header? How do you do that?
In AppD, if you want to monitor this, that will take like in AppD how we are doing, right? We'll be inserting one header and we'll be doing right. Same way you can filter it out here.
Or
I will tell you those things.
like a synthetic transactions?
Yes, yes. In that we will discuss. That is like
Perfect.
too early.
Yeah, yeah. But moving forward, we, I mean, it will be helpful for us to for you to, if you teach us like the complex queries, how you align it.
Yeah, sure.
That's
Sure.
important.
Yeah, sure.
With wildcards and regular expressions.
Yeah, sure. I will cover that.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are
Thank you
meeting
very
same
much.
time tomorrow. Same time, right?
Monday.
Oh, Monday. Okay. Okay. Thanks, man. Have a nice weekend.
Yeah. Thanks. Have a nice weekend. Thanks.